With news breaking of Kate Middleton's battle against cancer, it's important to remember that she is not alone. Cancer is something that affects so many in the world and reminds us all that at the end of the day, regardless of our celebrity status or not, we are all still human. Shannen Doherty's fight with cancer has been a long one, and it seems to be getting quite tragic in terms of the trajectory as it continues on into 2024. Doherty was initially diagnosed in 2015 with cancer, and by 2017 she was in remission. But unfortunately, 2 years later, the cancer came back. This is something that commonly happens. This time it escalated and it was considered stage 4. It has also reportedly spread to her brain and her bones. Shannen recently talked openly about preparing for the worst by downsizing in terms of the properties that she owns, as well as clearing out storage lockers filled with furniture, in the hopes of making her passing easier to deal with for her mom if or when that happens. What a sad thing to have to prepare for. Like, I don't even know what I would do if I had to prepare for something like that. What would you do? Let me know in the comments. Julia Dreyfus was diagnosed with cancer but came back stronger than ever after her diagnosis, going on to win an Emmy for her performance in the final season of Veep. She was diagnosed back in 2017 and announced her diagnosis on Twitter, writing, "1 in 8 women get breast cancer. Today, I'm the one." She would use her diagnosis to speak out about the importance of universal healthcare, saying that while she had great benefits through the union, not every other woman out there is so lucky. She would also undergo a double mastectomy and 6 rounds of chemo before returning to film the final season of Veep and going on, of course, to win an Emmy. Bershan Shaw is the host of the Buckle Up with Bershan podcast and hails from season 13 of the Real Housewives of New York City reality TV show. She's a motivational speaker and she's had a long battle with cancer. She was originally diagnosed back in 2007 when she was 33 and beat her cancer, only for it to return just 2 years later, when she would get the diagnosis that it was now metastatic. A diagnosis so many honestly dread to hear. However, while she was only given 3 months to live at that time, Bershan refused to give up, and more than 16 years later, she is still continuing the fight and going strong. Bershan's advice to others out there is not to give up and continue to live life to the fullest. She actually says cancer for her was a gift, teaching her to live today, because tomorrow is never guaranteed. What a great way to take a terrible thing that happened to you and just turn it into something positive. Walsh, contestant on Celebrity Big Brother and former X Factor judge, recently opened up about his battle against the big C word. He said that for him, a lot of his fight affected him more mentally than physically, and it lingers on with him even now. Lewis was diagnosed during the lockdown with a rare type of cancer that about 350 people in the United Kingdom are diagnosed with yearly. This type of cancer is known as Waldenstrom macroglobulinemia. It is a very rare type of blood cancer that occurs when plasma cells mutate. The cancer lives in the blood plasma, which is not so great, as plasma is of course the part of your blood that actually helps to fight off infections and sickness. Lewis has been sleeping a lot in the house on Big Brother, and it's believed that this is the reason why. While he's of course past treatment, he is still in remission. In fact, it's believed his cancer diagnosis is actually what later prompted him to go on Celebrity Big Brother to begin with. Matthew Knowles is the father of famous musical artists Beyonce and Solange, and he recently opened up about his cancer diagnosis back in 2019. He discovered after getting diagnosed that he possessed the BRCA2 gene mutation. For those who don't know, possessing this genetic mutation puts you basically at a higher risk for developing a multitude of cancer types, which also made sense to Knowles since his family has had a long history with cancer. Knowles ended up being treated back in 2020 with a mastectomy. He opened up about his battle in the hopes of spreading awareness for the risk of breast cancer in both men and of course in women. Sanjay Dutt is a famous actor in Indian cinema. He recently opened up about his cancer journey last year when he talked about his diagnosis of stage 4 lung cancer that he'd received back in 2020. He initially was admitted to the hospital believing he was suffering from COVID and had fluid in his lungs. After undergoing a bunch of tests while at the hospital, he would learn that he had cancer. He was alone when he received the diagnosis and initially didn't want to be treated at all. However, once the news was shared with his family, he knew he had to fight it for their sake. Miraculously, with the help of his medical team, he was in recovery and deemed cancer-free within only a few months. Many attribute Dutt's attitude as being a factor in his recovery. He refused to give up and even refused to slow down, deciding to not give up but also not willing to slow down for treatment and instead just push right through. You know what's crazy when you're getting chemo treatments treatments and then you're just like, I'm just gonna do like 2 hours of working out. That was Sanjay's life. That's crazy. Olivia Munn recently came out as suffering from breast cancer and even went on to share that she had a double mastectomy to treat it. The wild thing about her diagnosis is that it also helped to spread awareness for a tool that many others out there did actually not know existed. I didn't know this existed. I don't know if you did, but it's making me be like, man, I feel like I need to get so many things checked out. Cancer is so scary. Olivia Munn was not diagnosed via a mammogram. In fact, her mammogram and a genetic test had actually come back completely clean, not picking up any cancer at all. Instead, she was diagnosed via her doctor, or as she referred to, her guardian angel, using a risk assessment tool in the form of a multi-part questionnaire to basically diagnose her. From there, she was sent for an MRI and it was shown that she did indeed have cancer. Not only was Munn brave for sharing this news, but she also helped many others out there to learn about this tool and likely inspired others to ask their doctors about it. I know I'm gonna ask my doctor about it, which could lead to countless other lives being saved. Jane Fonda was optimistic when she was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. This type of cancer has a high survival rate, so she was pretty convinced she was gonna beat it. Also, this is Jane Fonda we're talking about. She obviously does not give up easy. I love Jane Fonda. Fonda underwent a series of chemotherapy treatments and also stayed active during her battle, using her diagnosis to create awareness as well as continuing to be a champion for environmental rights. Rumors were flying about Kate Middleton a few weeks back, who was on leave from royal duties. When I was talking about it at the time, I assumed that she was probably fine and would be back after Easter, as was stated before she even left. Well, it's after Easter and yes, she did return, but I was not expecting her to return with this bad news that we got. Kate revealed that while she had her abdominal surgery, it was discovered that she had cancer. And while she has been on the mend from that previous surgery, she is now well enough to actually start her cancer treatment, so that's what's going on. So now she's back in the spotlight, but she also has cancer treatments to deal with as well, and will likely have everyone watching her even more closely because, of course, of her diagnosis. Poor Kate. Kate was optimistic about her treatments though, telling Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis that she would be okay. And Kate even went on in her announcement to speak directly to others struggling with their own cancer battles, letting them know that they're not alone. A lot of people were liking it to Queen Elizabeth, saying that's exactly what the Queen would have said, and I'm like, kind of love that. Not like a huge royal person, but I kind of love it. While Kate shared her cancer diagnosis more recently, King Charles III was also diagnosed with cancer earlier this year. He responded to her announcement publicly, saying how proud he was of Catherine for her courage and for speaking as she did in her announcement. King Charles was diagnosed with cancer himself in February of this year. The cancer was found when he too was undergoing a separate procedure in His Majesty's case for an enlarged prostate. In fact, the initial surgery he was slated to have and Kate's abdominal surgery were actually announced on the exact same day, and both royal family members apparently spent their time out of the public eye in the hospital together. Charles remains optimistic about both his own and his daughter-in-law's fight with cancer, expecting both himself and Catherine to be on the mend and back to normal soon. The king chose to share his diagnosis in the hopes it would inspire others out there who are struggling with their own cancer battles. That's about it. Until next time, remember to be kind to yourself and others, go to your doctor, get yourself checked out, and of course, drink water. It's good for you.